Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Reno and IMO Southern Joint Branch lecture, which will be on Tier 3 NOx certification. Before I introduce you to our speaker, I'd just like to run through a couple of just how the Q&A session is going to work. So for those of you who haven't attended our lectures before, all of the Q&A is left to the end of the lecture, and you can ask your questions in, well, three ways, basically. You can either post your question in the Q&A chat. You can also post your question in the general chat, we'll still see it. Or if you don't mind actually asking a question out loud, you can raise your hand and then we'll invite you to speak. Just be warned on that we are recording the lecture. And so if you don't want to be included in the recording, it would be best to just type your question in, and you can choose whether or not you want to ask your question anonymously, or you can leave that box unticked and we'll know who's asked the question. So moving on to our lecture tonight. So our speaker is Max Wu, who is a team lead in MARPOL section for Lloyd's Register. And Max has a great deal of experience when it comes to emissions. He's been involved with IMO level, and I'm sure this is going to be a very informative lecture on the topic. So I think without further ado, Max, if you could actually unmute and share your screen and also put your video on.
Thank you, Liz. I will try to share my screen first. Liz, can you see my screen?
Yes, although it's not in the
okay.
presentation mode. And
yeah.
If you could also share your video, if you put your video on as well.
Yeah, wait a minute. I try to share the video because now the video looks like yeah, you can see me, right?
Yes, see you now.
Okay, thank you, Liz, again. Good evening, everybody. Like my colleague Liz introduced, my name is Max Wu. I work in Lloyd's Register in Southampton office. Instead of introduce myself more, I also like to introduce my team. MARPOL section is let's say it's a unique in Lloyd's Register. It's only in Southampton we have this team. So our function is more globally, and we regularly receive some inquiries and service requirements, and also a lot of questions come across from the internal or external client. And this topic is some areas I'm working on. When I pump up this topic I think I'm just wondering whether or not we have some colleague is interested to attend this presentation or lecture or not, because I'm just wondering, because in UK area, we don't have so many engine makers. But for the Tier 3, it's quite a good news is a lot of, we call it applicant can apply for Tier 3, not only engine maker. So I can say over there have some potential audience who will be attend, could be interesting for this topic. Let's start. For this section, it's just to give you some briefing or basic introduce, and due to the time restriction, I cannot really go very detailed. So in this session, I just try to introduce the IMO regulation and the document related for the NOx emissions. And also I just try to also want to put more time on the legislative procedure for NOx certification. Of course, including the Tier 3 for engine fitted with SCR. And so I think this topic could be very interesting and useful, because regularly we do get some inquiry, including the email and the telephone, and to ask for how to get their engine certified. So that's the reason I think it could be helpful to give this presentation. If we look at this topic, it's quite a long history already, frankly. From Tier 1 to Tier 2 until now, we have Tier 3. So it's quite a long history. So first item, I'd like to introduce the IMO regulations and documents for the NOx emissions. If before you already get some information or already get some cases done, I believe you already should be familiar with those kind of regulations and the document. If we look at the MARPOL Convention and also the MEPC resolutions, and of course some kind of circular and so on. So we needed to a little bit understand how those kind of resolution is coming out. And this picture here, what you see here is in the plenary of the IMO meeting in London, at the quarter of IMO over there. This is undergoing for the MEPC meeting. This meeting normally will be very important because a lot of IMO MEPC resolution come out after those kind of meeting. You may can recall during the November 22nd to 26th, we just finished MEPC 77th session. A lot of resolution also will be come out after this meeting. Of course, this MEPC meeting this time have the hybrid method to do it, including some delegation, the arranged delegations attend physically in IMO, and of course a lot of delegations still attend through the virtual, through the remote. That's the IMO MEPC meeting. And later on, following this, I just try to give you some briefing regarding to the MARPOL Convention itself. MARPOL Convention, as you know, over there they have, until now, we have 6 annex. From Annex 1 to Annex 6. Actually today, what I want to talk is about Annex 6, which is, let's say, is the youngest, let's say. And this Annex 6 entered into force in the 19th May 2005. It's regarding to the air pollution. Of course, now on, if you look at it, it's also including the energy efficiency. And if we look at the new amended, recorded, revised MARPOL Annex 6, the energy efficiency, they changed to carbon intensity. So those kind of things all included in the Annex 6 over there. Of course, Annex 6 also including many regulations, and from regulation 12 until regulation 18, and which will be, if you look through it, most, let's say, famous one is regulation 13, is regarding to NOx emissions, and regulation 14 is regarding to the SOx emissions. So that's the most, let's say, most famous regulations sitting in this Annex 6. For the MARPOL Annex 6, I mentioned, Regulation 13 is regarding to the NOx emissions. Here, I want to share some kind of, let's say, words which will be helpful to better understand this regulation. One word is marine diesel engine. And this is sitting in the regulation 2.1.21 over there. Of course, this regulation is coming from 2021 revised MARPOL Annex 6 over there. In the previous version, should be in the regulation 2.14. And this is come from the definition over there. It's marine diesel engine. Why I point out this definition, because sometimes a lot of colleagues is not really focused on the definition. But for this item, it's quite important. And because sometimes we get some phone call or email, they asking for whether or not their turbine will have some NOx emission related requirement. If we look at the marine diesel engine definition, over there is not considered turbine over there. So this turbine engine definitely is not within this definition. So in that case, the regulation 13 is not cover that kind of turbine. This is the one word. Another one is 130 kilowatt. This is the output of the engine, which should be regulated. If the engine is more than 130 kilowatt, so this regulation will be applied. So normally, if you look at some small boat, maybe they say their genset and could be much less than 130. So in that case, this regulation 13 do not really to cover it. So this is the limit, let's say, is for the engines output. The third one is Tier 3. And Tier 3 actually is sitting in the 13.5.1 over there. And of course, this is the latest regulation requirement or stringent NOx emissions level. Compared to Tier 1 is nearly 80% lower. So this is but if you look at the further one, you can see another wording is operation. The operation also is quite important. And we also get some inquiries or email to ask whether they need to have Tier 3 engine certified if they will not operation in we call it the NOx emission areas. So of course, if you are not operating over there, of course you don't need really to meet this regulation requirement. So that's the following keyword which I list here is NOx Tier 3 emission control areas. At the moment, we all know what they have two key data, let's say. One is from the first day of 2016. Is this emission control areas actually sitting in USA area, and later on I will let you know what exactly the area it is. And another data is the first day of 2021. It's regarding to another NOx emission control areas. So following this, you can see I'll give you some details. This is the two areas, or let's say the two data related to different NOx emission control. Of course, if you look at the areas, how to define which area it is exactly. So you have to refer to, for example, for the North American emission control areas or USA Caribbean Sea areas, you have to find the very detailed areas. As you can find the Appendix 7 of Annex 6 over there is quite clear over there. And another area is let's say is Baltic Sea area, and this also North Sea, and this area is defined in the Regulation 1.14.6 of Annex 5 actually, if you want to really find which area it is. So this is the two, let's say, two dates and areas which we should be very clear actually already know. I think it's quite already know to everybody. One thing I think I want to point out here, why I put this slide here is because this date listed in below is give the, let's say, give the term of constructed. So this is the regulation 13.5.1.2 indicated. But if you look at the constructed, this one, you also need to go to the definition over there. It's regulation 2.1.28 from the 2021 revised MARPOL Annex 6 over there. And mainly is regarding to the ship secure lane over there. This is the data of the applicable. So that's the to date is quite important. And before we do get some ships, they only operation, let's say in Europe or the other area, not going to American area. So they just still don't need really to meet the Tier 3. But later on, you can see additional one coming. And frankly, you never know, maybe in the future will be have further coming. As I know, they have some areas to already try to set up additional, let's say, the NOx emission areas. So that's we can understand more and more areas in order to protect their own waters, their own airs. So this could be more and more areas will be coming to force. So that's the areas which we know already. Another item is regarding to some code, international code, which we should be very familiar with it, and because of those NOx technical code and 2008, this technical code actually, let's say like the Bible we are following, and because this code really give provide the mandatory procedure for the testing and the survey and the certification. Those kind of process is listed or regulated in the NOx Technical Code. So that's quite important IMO document or instrument come out to make sure the NOx emissions or NOx certification to the engines to be follow those NOx Technical Code properly. So that's the most important document for the engine's NOx certification. So it's quite important. Everybody, especially for the applicant, for the NOx emissions or NOx certification, they need to very familiar with this NOx Technical Code. Of course, as the classification society, we do the job on behalf of the flag. We really know this NOx Technical Code very detailed, and of course, sometimes maybe have some different interpreter. That's quite a normal thing to say. But we do very familiar with each chapters, and we have a deep understanding for this technical code. And of course, during our normal work, we do get some feedback. We do get some different interpretation regarding to the regulation requirement from this technical code. Yeah, we try to get some, let's say, give the right direction or right interpretation for those IMO instruments. So that's our responsibility. We try to get the right thing done. And that's the responsibility actually from us. That's the IMO, another very important document for the NOx emissions. Another one is the MCC resolutions. As I mentioned at the beginning, let's say, MCC resolutions actually, a lot of things is quite helpful because a lot of guidelines is coming from out from the IMO resolution after the proposals and for the guidelines. Those kind of guidelines is quite helpful to address some, let's say, particular let's say this is the example for the engine fitted with SCR, how to certify those kind of engine fitted with SCR system. So this is a quite important guidelines which we are still following. And this latest one is MEPC 291. This is the 2017 guidelines. Previous in the 2011, we have 2011 guidelines, and the new guidelines and 2017 guidelines is in place, so replace the older one. So in that case, if you have some, let's say, engine together with the SCR want to get certified, so we have to follow these guidelines. Of course, in addition to the NOx Technical Code, because the NOx Technical Code is something like the basic document, and especially for the engine fitted with SCR, we follow these guidelines. This document is coming from IMO MEPC 71, that time adopted. We call it 2017 guidelines. So that's the resolutions for the certification to the engine fitted with SCR. Another item, some kind of circular also is very important. those kind of circular sometimes is let's say ignored by some colleagues, and they just come to ask some question. For example, when the existing engine they needed to replace, they want to get upgrade and so on. They have no really idea how or what kind of tailors should be made. So this circular is quite helpful. MEPC Circular 849. This, if you look at this circular, over there they have an annex. Actually, over there is a table. Actually, you can very clearly to see when you want to, for example, if you want to replace or get some upgrade, they will tell you what kind of tailors you need to meet. So that's quite good because it is a table. If you, of course, if you don't have those kind of circular, you can, later on you can drop an email to me, and definitely I can supply to you. It's quite helpful and easy because I do receive some, let's say, inquiries and questions to ask that is similar. So normally if they come to me, I will attach this circular for their information and reference. So this is a quite helpful item. Also, this kind of instruction comes from the MEPC Circulars. So that's the MEPC Circulars. And another circular I think also is quite important regarding to some kind of engines, they use the dual fuel and they are gas fuels. So this MEPC Circular 854 give your guidance on the application of Regulation 13, and is regarding to the Tier 3 requirement. So this addresses some, let's say, addresses some situations and concerns, and this is quite a helpful circular in place. This is the MEPC Circular. In addition to IMO document, actually, X also have some document in place. For example, mentioned, we have a unified requirement, we have unified interpretations. For the MARPOL related, actually, you can look at the MPC, for example, MPC UI, MPC, for example, 112 over there. You can see what kind of interpreter regarding to which IMO instrument to that one. For example, for the NOx technical or some of the others, even they give some interpreter for some guidelines even. But anyway, this is some kind of IX gave the, let's say, give some more clear interpretation. So this is the document you can find from their from the website. So from until now, I go through some IMO document from IMO, from the IX, and also from the convention to the NOx technical, and to some MEPC resolutions. So that's the IMO document related. Next, I want to go through some kind of LR as the classification society. What kind of document we have in order to conduct the NOx certification? First item, we call it a country file, and it's very helpful for our colleague to flag administration. And we also have the MSPM, we call it. It's a Marine Survey Procedure Manual. It's also our internal document. let's say, some kind of tools to help our colleagues. Of course, we also have some internal marine technical notice in place. This is particular for the marine diesel NOx certification procedure. For example, here I listed here is MTN 2017/08A. This is for the marine diesel engine NOx certification. This gives a very detailed procedure. It's many pages over there. I cannot really go through it this time, but if you are interested, I can share with you for this document. It's quite helpful to better understand how Lloyd register conduct the NOx certification. Of course, we have some other, let's say, documents. Also, if you already have, say, Lloyd register certificate, and you will be understand, for example, EIPP, we have the form of 1788, and for the EIPP, we have form 1782. So that's the quite, let's say, formal one. And we also issue the design approval document. If you look at the document, before you have those kind of surveys done, you can find in the left corner is the form 6438 over there. So that's the Lloyd register document. Of course, those, especially for the EIPP certificate, we fully, let's say, follow the NOx technical code related over there, because we cannot change anything. Just use our form over there to issue it. Of course, some individual flag, they have their own form, so we normally issue that kind of form on behalf of them also. So that's some kind of document which we have. The slide actually is regarding to Lloyd service. And of course, this service is regarding to the NOx certification. One item, we call it a desktop job, is a design approval. And the other will be involving our surveyors, local surveyors, field surveyor, we call it. And they will be conduct the survey in the workshop and conduct the survey on board. They have a different purpose actually. For example, for the survey in the workshop, normally it's during the pre-certification process over there. We call it a pre-certification survey. And the onboard survey is also according to the NOx technical code requirement. They carry out we call it onboard verification survey after the engine installation. And after this survey, they can, if the survey is successful, and then the attendance will be endorsed the IAPP certificate for the ship. So that's the process of, let's say, some kind of activity involving our own internal resources, including our, we call it the TSO, Technical Support Office, and of course also involving our surveyor in the local. So that's the Lloyd survey. And different surveyor, they have their different responsibility, but the whole purpose is make sure those NOx certification process is running smoothly, and in order to meet the regulation requirement. So that's the Lloyd service involved. If we look at the let's say the desktop work, and this kind of work, we call it, let's say, desktop work, or is design approval. And we do need some document to be submitted. For example, I listed here. Those kind of document is, let's say, is basic one. One key document is the engine's NOx technical file. Another one is some kind of a supportive document. For example, they have the FAT report, they have the NOx critical commonness verification, they have the emission report, and they have the fuel oil report, and of course they have the measurement devices and the certificate and so on. And so that's we call it a supportive document. From here you can see the first one, engine NOx technical file. This one is the key item or basic one. And in addition to the technical file, the supportive document, and if the NOx certification certified under the concept of engine group or engine family, we also need, and we call it a NOx conformity of production. This arrangement also needed to be approved. If you look at the technical code, they have the section to regulate this requirement. Because sometimes I do notice before the engine maker, they are very let's say familiar with the technical code, and they have any issue to submit it or prepare and submit it. But now on more, let's say more applicant is not only come from the engine maker. Maybe sometimes they have less of experience to prepare for those kind of document according to the NOx technical code. So sometimes they are not fully understand and they miss it and so on. So that's some kind of document we do need it. Of course, we also have some internal report through our internal channel. For example, I give here example for the survey checklist. So this kind of document is quite, let's say, you need to prepare it carefully and submit it. So that's the document what we needed for our desktop work for the NOx certification. Another one is regarding to when we review it, what kind of deliverable you will get from us. One is, of course, is your submitted the NOx technical file will be approved and stamped. And NOx conformity of the production arrangement will be approved and stamped. And very important things, you will be get the EIPP certificate or EIPP certificate if we don't know which flag it is. So normally we issue the EIPP. But anyway, it doesn't matter in the EIPP or EIPP certificate, they are all certificates, and no worry to worry about the difference. Of course, Lloyd also will be issued the design approval document. We call it DAD. This, let's say, is give some comments. Sometime will be indicated in our issue the DAD. So that's the document which normally we, let's say, deliver to the applicant. Also, by the way, just to let you know, now on a lot of deliverable is a digital one. We just stamp in the document. I use a digital stamp. So that's the not like before the hard copy now. Yeah, no have the hard copy anymore. So that's the let's say that's the top job. And the following one is the survey in the workshop. As I mentioned, we have some kind of emission test, especially for the parent engine. They will be carried out the emission testing, witnessed by the surveyor, and that should be no problem. Everybody understand it. And for the member engine, sometimes they are a little bit not so clear, because sometimes those member engines survey will be combined with the engine's FAT in the workshop. So if you look at the scope of NOx member engine related, so you will see why we have to verify the NOx related components, the markings, the settings, and so on. So that's the requirement or process our surveyor should be conduct. So that's we need to verify the IMO marking over there based on the technical file. So that's the survey in the workshop. For the engine, here I give the picture is a main engine actually, fitted with SCR. It's quite a big one. You can see in the top of the photo, it's quite a big one. In the left, we'll also have the urine water tanker sitting over there. So this is the biggest system for the engine fitted with SCR. And next photo maybe is more clear. Here you can see the exhaust piping line goes through it, and in the catalyst sitting in the SCR frame over there, casing, let's say. Over there, the exhaust will be passing through those catalysts. So this is the one example or one photo for the engine fitted with the SCR. But next, I'll try to give you some idea regarding to the SCR. The SCR itself actually including the casing outside, and inside is the catalyst block, as I showed you in the previous slide. And you can see also over there have the tank. This is the reductant. Normally use the urine solution. Over there, they just injection those kind of reduction into the pipeline, and the chemical reaction will be happening on the surface of the catalyst block. So that's quite important to make sure this catalyst block will not blocked and so on. So make sure those kind of chemical reaction can be happened fully. Let's try to say that like that. So that's the SCR itself. If sometime if you have because those kind of SCR is quite popular at the moment for a lot of engines, especially now on the technique is more and more mature for the SCR. Of course, now on they also have some more innovative the other technique in place. But as I know at the moment, the SCR still is very, very popular to apply it on board. So next we will talk about the survey on board actually. Survey on board is quite regular or quite normal activity happening on board. As I said, this activity is quite important. They should be verified or carry out or to do the survey on board to verify in according to the approved document. Let's say approved technical file before the IAPP certificate can be endorsed. So this is the whole process from the desktop to the field. This is the whole process. We will be make sure this NOx certification activity to be done properly and smoothly. For the survey on to the engine fitted with SCR, we do have these guidelines which we introduced already. So this is the survey on board for the engine fitted with SCR will be have, especially for the parents engine one. They needed to do in according to the section 7 of the guidelines. They needed to do the onboard confirmation test. So that's the part of the certification process actually. So this is to make sure, let's say, especially for the scheme B, because under these guidelines, they have scheme A and scheme B also. but not really to mix up with the AGCS. Also, they have Scheme A or Scheme B. But MEPC 291 is quite good. I think they give very clear how to do the onboard conformation test, especially for the permanent engine one. That's the guidelines, give the instruction how to carry out the survey on board to the engine fitted with SCR. So that's something we needed to know regarding to the engine fitted with the SCR. Of course, the Lloyd register also have a lot of office can conduct the NOx certification client from Asia to Europe, from Europe to America. We have the technical capability in place. If you have any questions, and you can contact with the Lloyd register client manager or the local office around you. Of course, I think we have a very good tools over there. We have Lloyd register help desk in place. Now we try to strengthen those help desk, make it more easier, and you get the answer, get your question, will answer very quicker. Of course, if you really want to get a direct contact with us, also you can send it to mapo@lr.org. So that's some kind of way if you want to know or want to get more information. For example, I mentioned at the beginning, we do have one Lloyd register developing our own procedure, and we can share with you. And of course, if you still have some further question, and we can share with, let's say, discuss with you. And of course, I cannot list so many cases or so many inquiries or share with you. And if individually you have some questions, please don't hesitate to contact with us. We are quite happy to help you. And this is the Lloyd register contact method. Before I go into the question time, I'd like to, let's say, get some key points to share. One item we do introduce a little bit for the regulation 13. This is regarding to the NOx emissions. And next one is the very important document, which is NOx Technical 2008, which we are using. Next one is regarding to the guidelines. This guidelines is for the engine fitted with SCR. And you know now, most popular technique on board to reduce the NOx emissions is fitted with SCR. Of course, a lot of challenges over there, because especially for some small ship and yacht, their space is very important. It's not so easy to find some enough space to fit in the SCR and fit in the tank and additional tank and so on. So yeah, that's we do fully understand. Also, during the IMO meeting, the organization, some NGO on behalf of the yacht industry do suggest or submit some papers to try to, let's say, further delays the regulation 13-3 requirement. So that's the voice from the industry also. Yeah, we can understand it. But I think the discussion result is not really supported. So that's the situation at the moment we are facing. NOx emissions is air pollutant. We do very cautious regarding to this kind of emissions coming out from the engine, and that's the reason why and more make the NOx emissions more stringent. And yeah, that's the key item which I want to share today. And I hope, frank to say, I try to leave more time maybe to share or have some time to answer your question. I think that's the more useful. So that's my presentation today. If you have some questions, please don't hesitate to contact with us. Yeah, that's me. I think I'll leave to Liz. Maybe we can questions.
Yes, thank you, Max, for a very detailed lecture there. We do have one question already, which I'll read out whilst the rest of you think of some more. So this question is, retrofitting an SCR looks quite complex and expensive. Are there any alternatives to achieve NOx technical code compliance?
That's quite a good question, actually. As I mentioned, now on, we do have some company, they approach us for their innovative technique. For example, I cannot say the company name, but they do develop some products to reduce the NOx emissions. Of course, not only the NOx emission, also at the same time, they can reduce particulate matters and the other air pollutant. Also have some other technique, for example, they use the EGR technique also. So, but at the moment, for the marine application, more mature or more popular is for reduce the NOx emission, they use the SCR. Of course, now on you can see a lot of gas engine or dual fuel engines is developed by the engine maker. So, by the way, that's one very important thing is try to meet the NOx emission requirement. So now on, if you still use the traditional, let's say, fossil fuel, it's quite difficult, or even sometimes it's not possible to purely depend on the engine's technique to reach the Tier 3. So that's the reason. One solution is they use the after treatment devices like the SCR. Another one could be they use alternative fuels. For example, as I mentioned, they use gas fuel, and this, at least at the moment, we do certify the many engines. They are gas fuel, and sometimes they are the dual fuel, because when the ship operates outside of the NOx emission areas, they can still run in the liquid fuel oil, because they only need to meet the Tier 2. So at the moment, as I know, this is some popular technique in place to reduce the NOx emissions. So we are very open to the industry or to this market to the more and more innovative technique in place or development by, let's say, developer and put it into the market. We are quite happy to help them and working together in order to achieve or more technique in the market. So this is some, especially I do realize a lot of yacht, for example, they are very challenged and to fit additional equipment like the SCR. So that's the reason some development already consider this kind of challenge. They develop their, let's say, innovative technique, and we are working together with them, and we hope step by step could be acknowledged by the market, acknowledged by the IMO, at least could be have some IMO document to support them, and recognized by, let's say, globally when they put those kind of technique on the engine. So that's my comments. Hope these comments can answer that question. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Max. The next question is, which area do you think is likely to be the next to require restrictions in air pollution from ships?
That's quite a good, quite a good question, actually. At the moment, as you know, we do have the regulation 13 for the NOx, regulation 14 for the SOx, and of course, we have the regulation 15 for the VECS, OSV, and of course, we have the regulation 12 regarding to the ozone and we call it ODS. At the moment, as I realized, we do have a lot of discussion for the black carbon over there. And this is quite hot. And also, of course, this kind of black carbon also make our, let's say, Arctic areas is more and temperature go up and so on. So that's also draw attention to that to the IMO level. And of course now not coming to force, but it's already, let's say, draw a lot of attention and to the IMO community. So that's another item we do realized. And another item, of course, related to some kind of greenhouse gases, actually. That's sometimes I not call it the air pollutant. It's some kind of GHG gases, actually. For example, methane slip, and also is under the attention. And but just like I mentioned, at the moment, I think more and more near to us is regarding to the black carbon regulation. Even we have, for example, even we have the regulation 14, we call it the SOx emission and the particulate matters. But we don't really see particulate matters to be regulated. But black carbon could be filling that gap, and then will be in the future, I believe, could be have some regulation in place, let's say mandatory to measure it, to regulate it, and try to reduce that kind of emissions from engine. Thank you, Liz. That's my comments.
Thank you. At the moment, there's no further questions, although whilst I'm speaking, feel free to ask more. And in the meantime, as I said at the start of the lecture, as usual, this lecture has been recorded and it will be available on YouTube probably next week. And what basically just look out for an email from either RENA or IMO HQ, which will have the link to that lecture in it. Alternatively, you can go on YouTube and you can search for RENA and IMO Southern Joint Branch, which will find our channel. And if you follow us on the channel, you should get notified when we add more videos. The next lecture will be on the 6th of January and will be on Titanic and the evolution of regulations, basically, which should be quite interesting. And again, we'll send an invite out via HQ for that in the same email as the link to this lecture. Or alternatively, you can follow us on Eventbrite. Again, just search for RENA IMO Southern Joint Branch, and then you'll get notifications from Eventbrite. Or you can join our LinkedIn group, which, as I said before, RENA IMO Southern Joint Branch. Just search for that, and we post announcements in that group. So there's a variety of ways that you can keep up to date with branch activities. So there's still no further questions. So I will. I know we've got one person's raised their hand. Richard, I'm going to allow you to talk. If you could unmute your microphone.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, I was just going to ask Max about port state control. So if a port state control inspector comes on board a ship, which is required to have limitations on air pollution, is he likely to only check the certification, or is he going to want to do practical tests of the exhaust emissions?
That's good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand your meaning. For the NOx emissions, actually, we do require the state, we call it statutory document to put on board. One is the certificate, which is the EIPP certificate. Another one is the approved technical file. In addition to that, actually record book. If they have some maintenance replacement, they should be recorded their activity by the crew on board. So normally, the port officer will be check or verify those kind of documents, especially, for example, for whether or not the EIPB is still, let's say, valid, the technical file still, let's say, have some amendment or not. And as I mentioned, more important, maybe they will be taking eyes on whether or not the record book to be filled in by the crew properly. For example, if they make some judgment to replace some parts and so on. So that's the key item they needed to focus on. Yeah, as I said, the port officer normally will be put to make sure the statutory document should be put on board for the ship, and also the activity should be, let's say, recorded properly in the technical record book. So that's they are focused on.
Is there anything else, Richard? Or
no, that I think that answers my point. Thanks very much.
okay,
Thank you, Richard, for your question.
Okay, thank you. I think that we've just gone past, so I think we'll conclude the lecture there. So thank you, Max, again for your lecture and for giving us your time. And thank you to the rest of you for attending, and I hope you will be able to attend more of our lectures in the future. So without further ado, good night to you all.